Okay, I'm going to do a quick Zoom poll to see who's here today. That way we get to, I can see how I want to personalize this a little bit. So if you wouldn't mind taking a moment and just let me know what your role is. Let's see. Okay, I'm just looking at the results coming in. We have about half of the people that have responded so far. I'm going to close this in about 3 seconds. All right, I'm going to end this, share these results with you. So the majority of us today are gen ed teachers. Okay, thanks for joining us. We do have quite a few special ed teachers, a tech person on there too. Good, maybe you can add something. Guidance counselors and school psychs, thanks for joining us. We do have an OT and other. I'm curious to see what that is. If you wouldn't mind putting what your role is in the chat box, that would be great. All right, here are our objectives for today. If you're new to Google Slides, today you'll be able to understand how to create a new slide deck and use the various features in the tabs to customize your slides to your needs. And at the end, learn how to present a Google slide deck and how to make that a little more effective for your students. Okay, so we have some ESL, behavior, gifted. Okay, great. Reading specialist, nice. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. All right, one more poll and that's it. I just want to know what your experience is with slides. So are you a beginner? Have you used it, but you want some more ideas? Or basically you're a pro at this, you're a certified Google Slide user, or you should be. Okay, about 70% of you have voted so far. I'll give you another 3 seconds or so. All right, I'm gonna stop this. And here are the results. We have quite a few beginners, so that's great. I will take you through some beginning information. And then if you have used it, which it looks like quite a few of you have, I will also give you some more ideas, some cool tools as I call them in the slideshow. So hopefully you get something out of today and you're able to use this moving ahead. Great. All right, so starting a new slide deck, I'm going to walk you through this. So I'm going to be getting out of this Zoom presentation and actually going in and showing you how this is done as well. So just bear with me as I pop back and forth from my slide deck that I'm presenting from into a new one to show you. So I show you the steps here on the left-hand side. This is what it looks like in your drive. So if I'm in my drive here, which I am, I'm signed in over here, I can go to what I call the waffle. Some of you call it the tic-tac-toe, the 3x3. There's many names to it. You can click on that, go to slides, and you can add a new one that way. Or if you're in your drive, you just go to the plus, you scroll down, go to Google Slides, and I prefer to start from a template. Okay, so that is probably the best way to go if you are new at this. It'll give you some templates to choose from, and that way you don't have to come up with the backgrounds and the layouts. Okay, so that is how you would start a new slide deck. You also want to make sure that you give it a title. So at the very top, when I do click on a template, the very top, just like any Google Doc or slide or sheets, You can click in there and give it a new title. This automatically comes up as book report because that's the name of this template. So I could just simply put in a new name and it will name it for me. Okay, so that is probably the best way if you're new at this to start a new one. I am going to go down to this, and I think it's probably best, if you don't mind, for me to present not in present mode, but in this slideshow with this view open. That way I don't have to exit out and go in to a new one all the time. It might lag on the computer on your view. So here's a cool tip for you. A lot of times I hear from teams that Google Docs is not really good for putting images in and text in and rearranging. So a great way to make posters or have your students make brochures or easily put your text and pictures in is when I have a doc open, or I'm sorry, a slide open, and let me just open one here. I can go to File and Page Setup, and it defaults to the presentation widescreen, which is the 6:9 ratio. But if I go to Custom, and I want this to be a typical 8.5 by 11 sheet, I can type in 8.5 by 11, hit apply, and now it changes it to that typical size that teachers are used to. And this way, now I can insert text, I can insert pictures, I can rearrange them like I would like to in Google Docs, but Google Docs isn't very user-friendly for that. So if you're making a worksheet or you're making a handout for students, or you're creating something that you want them to type into, this is a great option for that, so that they're viewing it like they typically would. Okay, so again, we're in File, Page Setup, you click on Custom, and you choose your size. So that's cool tool number one. All right, I'm going to go through each of these tabs for you, and we will walk through what they mean. Of course, I'm not going to have time to go through every single option under each tab, but I thought I would show you the most relevant ones, the ones that I think you would probably use most. We've already talked about page setup, so let me talk about make a copy and download. If I'm in this untitled presentation, and let me just call this test 2, that way we're all on the same page, and I'm going to change my page setup back to that widescreen that we're used to. Under File, I can make a copy of this. So if you really like the poster that you just created because you changed that page setup, or you really like the format that you made, and maybe you are presenting a science lesson to one group and then a science lesson to another group, but maybe you have to tweak a couple things or take a couple points out, you can copy the entire presentation, and that way you have 2 copies that are exactly the same, and you can change a little bit. You can also copy specific slides, so don't think that you have to start from scratch. You can go through and copy. Another nice feature about Google Slides is that you can download this as a PDF. So if you've made a poster or your students made a brochure, you can download as a PDF. You can share that as a PDF so nobody can change it. You can then email that to parents so it can't be changed. You can do a lot of things as a PDF. And this is really a nice way to share things, because sometimes people don't have access to Google Slides, or they're uncomfortable using it, but they know how to open a PDF. Okay, so make a copy and download. Those are 2 really nice features under the File tab, in addition to that page setup that I just showed you. Okay, moving right along. Cool tool number 2, I am going to show you how you can create an editable digital worksheet. It might be helpful in today's times, so that if you are sharing this slide with somebody, maybe on Google Classroom, and you've made a copy for each of your students, they can complete a worksheet so that it is shared back with you, and it can be done digitally. Okay, so I am actually going to go into the test document. And the first thing you want to do, since you're going to be creating this as a worksheet, is to change the size. So I'm going to page setup. And this time I'm going to do, instead of 8.5 by 11, I'm going to do 11 by 8.5. So it's in that landscape mode. Okay, here it is. I'm going to delete these text boxes. So I'm just clicking on it. I get that blue around it, and I'm just hitting the delete key. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert an image off of my computer. Okay, so maybe you have taken a picture of a physical worksheet. Maybe you have downloaded a worksheet from the web. You've saved it on your desktop, or you've emailed it to yourself. Let's see, I did one on my desktop, and I called it Foursquare Writing. I'm going to either double click on it or click and open. And now it inserts this picture, okay? So I can insert this picture, but what the cool thing is, I can also make this a background so that it cannot be clicked on and taken away by my students. So in order to do that, okay, so that's inserting a picture. I want to go to background. I'm going to change the background here to image. So this time I am choosing my image just like I did there. I'm going to go to desktop. That's where I saved that Foursquare Writing. Okay, and I don't want to put it in as an image that can be clicked on and deleted. I want to put it in as the background. So now if a student clicks on it, they cannot delete it. Okay, so the cool thing about this is that now I can insert a text box. I can make that text box, and I can put click here to type, because that's where I want the student to type. So now on their end, when they see it, they will be able to click and they will be able to type in there. Okay, if you're savvy on the computer, you can do a control copy, a control C, and then a control V, and that will paste that same thing that you made. I can do another control V because I'm copying that text box, and now I can drag it over here. If you're not savvy on the computer, you can just go to insert, go to text box again, draw your text box, and type it again. Okay, so now what I can do is, if you're in Google Classroom, you can share this with your students as an assignment, and make sure that you are making a copy for each of your students so that they are not going on the original copy. But that is how you make an editable worksheet for your students electronically.
Danielle.
Okay, I know I'm breezing through these quite quickly, and I'm hoping that you are able to go back to this and watch it. It is recorded, as I mentioned, and I'm going to show that again. Okay, so to do the Foursquare Writing background, again, you're changing the background of the slide. Okay, so you're actually putting that image in as the background, that worksheet. All right, so let me, I'm going to delete this slide. I highlighted it and I'm just hitting delete. I'm going to insert a new slide and I'll show you from the very beginning. Okay, so here's my slide. I want to make sure that my page setup is the size that I want it. So I'm going to do custom. In this case, I'm doing it landscape because that graphic organizer is in landscape mode. I'm going to get rid of these text boxes because I'm going to put my own text boxes in later. I'm then going to do background. You're going to choose the image. Again, if you have it in your Google Drive already, you can grab that image from there. In my case, I saved it to my desktop. So I'm on my desktop. I am going to scroll down, go to Foursquare Writing. Done, and there it is. Okay. Then I'm just going to insert text box. I'm going to use those 4 arrows to drag where I want it. I type what I want, click here to type. Okay, again, I can highlight that. When it's highlighted blue, that means it's active. I simply do a Control-C on my computer and then Control-V, and it copies that text box and I can just drag it to where I want. Okay, if you're not comfortable doing that, you can go to Insert Text Box and put those text boxes where you need them. All right, so that is Cool Tool number 2. Again, if you have questions, please put them in the chat box. I am trying to go back and forth a little bit. I saw a couple people ask to repeat that. The steps are right here. Okay, so we're going to backgrounds, you're choosing your image and so on. All right, moving along. Customizing. So we talked a little bit about backgrounds, but when I click on that, maybe you also saw, instead of changing the background to a certain image, you saw that I can change the color. So I could decide that I want yellow on here. And if I say add to theme, it'll do it for all slides. If I click done, it'll do it just for this slide. Okay, so there I just changed the background color. Okay, if I want to reset, ooh, I don't like the yellow, I click reset and it changes it back. If I go to layout, this is where I'm going to choose how I want my slide page or that slide deck laid out. Okay, so currently I have it this way. Okay, you can see that because it's highlighted a little bit. If I wanted to change it to a different layout, I can just simply click on it. It rearranges it for me automatically, but you can see that it messed up my, my current formats. So you want to make sure that you're choosing, whoops, I'm sorry, you're choosing your layout before you start. Okay. And then theme. Over here, they give you different themes. So my theme is this one here, Beach Day. If I wanted a different theme, I can click on it and it will change the theme of all of my slides. Okay. Again, these are things that you want to do right away when you first start your slide deck. Transitions, I'm not a big fan of transitions. However, you can transition this slide. Right now there's no transition, so when I click on it, it just simply goes to the next slide, but you can dissolve it, you can have it fade out, slide from right to left, and so on. Okay, so those are some things that you might want to tinker around with. You can apply it to all slides, you can apply it to just the slide at hand.
Before you go out, will you mix the makeup?
Yeah.
All right.
Just mix whatever's in the bowl.
I see that there's a question about assigning the slides. Thank you, Amanda, for answering that. If you're new to Google Classroom, I suggest watching a tutorial on Google Classroom. But as Amanda mentioned, you have an option to assign each student a copy. So you want to make sure you do that. All right, next one. The Edit tab. Here's my Edit tab. The important features that I wanted to point out to you are the undo and redo. Of course, you have these buttons here on your toolbar that will do the same thing. So as an example, if I click on this arrow and I delete it by accident, whoops, I can undo that. Okay. Copy and paste, these are your basic functions from way back when, but copy and paste are very important. Control C, Control V. Deleting slides and duplicating slides, we've kind of talked about that a little bit, but over here, whether I'm viewing it this way, I can click on the side. I know it's selected because it's highlighted, and I can simply hit the delete key on my keyboard and it would delete that slide altogether. Okay. All right, moving along. The View tab. So we're going to get to the present but I do want to point out to in the bottom views on the film because it's down. That's how I'm viewing it. Or like that, you can go to that way you're seeing more slides than you would typically. And just so you know, your slides are going to go across from left to right and then down. You can see the little numbers, and that's how it would be presented. And there's my route.
Hi, everyone. Danielle will be back shortly. So I will call her right now to see if she's logging back on. Danielle just let me know that her Wi-Fi cut out at home, so she's going to restart it and she'll be back as soon as possible. Sorry, guys.
Are we back on? Thumbs up? Ooh. This is going to be interesting. My husband's doing online teaching. My kids are on the network. I switched over to the Jetpack here, so hopefully that works. I apologize about that. Okay, let's get back to this. Let me share my screen here. Okay, so I'm not sure where I cut out. So I am going to go to where I think I left off, which was the View tab and the Speaker Notes. So if you show Speaker Notes under View, that should be checked. And that way you can type notes for yourself. So in this one, I might say Review View tab and go through each option. Okay, so those are things that you can see for yourself. The Insert tab. Up here, this is where I can insert an image. Okay, we briefly did that earlier. Just like any other computer program, you can insert an image and upload it from the computer. In this case, you can also insert from your drive. If I upload from the computer, you're going to be able to select where you need it and so on. The Insert the Text box, I showed that earlier when we did the interactive worksheet. The Insert Video, so this is pretty cool. So you can select video, it'll automatically bring you to YouTube. Maybe I'm doing something on colors, or you know, let me do Bill Nye colors. Okay, and I simply select it, hit select on the bottom, and it will insert that video here so that when my students view it on their end, this is what they'll see with the play button in the center, and that way they can view that. Okay, I'm going to delete that. The other cool things, especially for those of you using charts and diagrams, there's some really great charts in here that you can use, some really great diagrams for reading, for graphic organizers, for timelines. So I encourage you to go to Insert and check out the charts that are available to you.
And yeah,
Lines, if you're doing like a matching activity with your students, they can simply put lines in or arrows. That's how I created these arrows, by selecting arrow, drawing an arrow. Up here is where I would change the thickness of that line of the arrow simply by going to the line weight. Okay, so again, this is highlighted so I know it's active. And I can change the line weight by clicking on this and selecting how thick I want that.
Danielle. Danielle?
Okay. You can also insert new slides. I am in the habit of just doing Control M, which is insert a new slide. But if you do want to insert a new slide, you take your mouse, you put where you want it by making sure that line is there. I do a Control M, but you can also do Insert New Slide, and it will put a new slide in there for you. Okay, the next one is the Format tab. So if I go to Format now, you'll see on here that it says depends on what is selected. So we know that in slides or anything else, we select something by clicking on it. That kind of activates it. That's your blue ring around there. So now if I go to Format, it gives me the options of what I can do with that selected area. So I can change the borders around it. I can change the format of it, or I can crop it or replace it. So those are the things I can do with that image. If I were to select this text box, which is selected right now, and now I go to Format, it shows me what I can do with the text on there. So it all depends on what you have selected to format. Okay, if nothing is selected and I go to Format, I can't do anything. So that's kind of a reminder that you have to select something. The Slide tab. So if I go to this tab up here, a couple things that I wanted to point out was skip a slide. That's really important. If you have a presentation that you're doing and you're in present mode, you might want to skip a slide. So as an example, if I select this blank one, or maybe this is for a specific student, but I don't want everybody to see it, I can go to slide and skip slide. And you'll see that it has that little no view icon on it, and it says it'll be skipped when presenting. Okay, so that's one thing that I wanted to share in your slide. You can also duplicate slides, make a new slide as we talked about, move the slides around. The way that I move the slides around is simply highlighting the slide, left click, and dragging where I want to bring it. And that's how I move the slide. Okay. All right. We talked about changing the background and the layout. Those are up here, but you can also find them under the slide tab. You'll notice in Google and many other operating systems that there are ways to do the same thing. So you can use the slide tab up here, or you can use these options over here. I'm going to X out of that so we have better viewing. All right, the next one is the Arrange tab. That's this one here. And again, it depends on what is selected. So if I click on it now, it's not going to give me any options because I have nothing selected. However, if I click on this arrow and I want to arrange that arrow, perhaps I want to make sure that that's in front of that little picture on the right. So I click, so it's in front. So now if I drag it, you'll see that that arrow goes in front of that image. If I select it and do arrange, and now I say send to back, it's going to be behind this image, behind my text box, so I can't even see it. So I want to undo that. Okay, let's see what else is on there. Arrange, I can center things on the page horizontally, vertically. I can rotate images, so if I want to rotate that arrow, I simply rotate it, okay? And those of you comfortable with technology, you know that you can also take the end point there and rotate it that way if you want. Okay, I'm going to undo those and get that back to normal. The Tools tab. This one's pretty neat. A couple things that we'll want to go over. Spelling, I'm sure you're familiar with that, so I'm going to skip that. But Explore, this is something worth noting. If you are putting a presentation together, you'll notice this box on the bottom, and this little icon means Explore. If I open that, it gives me this pop-up on the right-hand side. And rather than opening a new tab to Google an image or Google a picture or find something, you can simply click in here, and maybe I'm trying to find a rainbow. So I can type that in. Right now I'm looking at the web. Okay, I can scroll down and perhaps just for the sake of demonstration, I want to look to see what this is about, this rainbow on Wikipedia. Okay, great. It brings up this article. I am done with this. This looks like something I want to share. So now I know that I can drag this in here for my students to look at later. It'll provide the link for them that will bring them to this web result. Okay, so that's a way that you can quickly do it without opening new windows and searching for things. You can use that Explore button. You may or may not know also that if you're in a Google Doc and use Explore, it'll also cite images for you. And that way you don't have to do that. Okay, so if I were to look for images and I want to add this image and insert it, you'll see that the proper citing is available if somebody were to click on that. Okay, so that is the Explore tab. I'm going to get rid of these. I'm gonna quick check the chat. It looks like it's got a lot going on. Yes, you can add Excel graphs. If you do that insert chart from Sheets, okay? If you've uploaded it from Excel into Sheets and you've converted it, you can do that. You can also insert something from Excel, the program, by simply doing your image upload. Okay, so I hope that answers that question. All right, voice type speaker notes. A lot of times teachers have asked me with accessibility. So we have a student that maybe is not able to type effectively. Maybe they have a physical disability where they're unable to type. Maybe spelling is a huge barrier for them. They don't even know where to begin with a word. So one thing that we know in Google Docs is that you can speak your text, which is great. However, in Google Slides, that option is not available, but there's kind of a workaround. So if I go into Tools and I go to Voice Type Speaker Notes, and I click to speak, my notes are going to go down here. Okay, so perhaps on this one, just bear with me, I'm going to type this by speaking. On this slide, I'm going to show you how to go through the Tools tab, period. There are some really great features here, exclamation point. I stop the voice typing. And so one workaround, if your students are creating slides for somebody, is they can speak those speaker notes, copy them, and click up here and do a Control-V and type them into their slide. Okay, so that way they don't have to physically hand type them if that is part of their disability. They don't have to worry about the spelling so much, and they can get their thoughts out a little better. Okay, so if you do create one of those digital worksheets that I showed you earlier, this is a way that they can fill in those text boxes by going into voice typing the speaker notes. All right. All right, trying to see where I'm at here. We just did the cool tool number 3, the voice typing. So again, you're going to go to Tools, Voice Type, and it'll bring up this icon on the left-hand side, the big speaker or the big microphone. You click on it to speak. They'll appear on the bottom. You can copy and paste those into your slide. Okay. One other thing under the Tools tab is accessibility settings. So if I were to click on this, if you do have a student using a screen reader, you want to make sure that that is checked. If you do have a student using JAWS or something else that magnifies their screen, you want to make sure that is checked also. Okay. All right, I'm just going to check the chat box, make sure everybody's okay here. Okay, Leslie said, do it again. Sorry, I'm not sure which one you're referring to. At the end, I know this goes to 11:30, but at the end, if there are things that you'd like me to repeat, I certainly will do that. Okay, this is presenting. I'm not going to, just to backtrack a second, I'm not going to go on to add-ons. Add-ons, there are some really good third-party tools that you can add into your presentation, like Nearpod. I know districts use Nearpod, Pear Deck. Those are things that you can add on. I'm not doing that today because a lot of times those things are blocked by your tech administrators. And so I didn't want to necessarily show you something that you can't use. Okay, but these things that I showed you today are all built into Google Slides. They don't require some third party to make it work. Okay, so presenting, and under present, you have this option here. You most likely do not have that. That is a third party thing that I added on so I can present with my phone. If I go to present and I use the drop down, I have two options. I have presenter view. So I can add so your audience can add questions and you can answer in live time. And you can also present from the beginning. So that's one way that you're going to present. I'm going to first go from the beginning. So if I click on this, present from the beginning, it's actually going to bring me to my cool tool number 4. It's going to bring up this screen, and you'll see on the bottom here that there are some options that I can use. One really neat feature that was added about a year ago is the captions feature. So if I use that drop down arrow, I have to hover over it, use that drop down, I can select whether I want my text for my captions to be on the bottom or top, and I can also select the size. For today, I'm going to go with the top for this demonstration, and the text size, I'm going to go to large. So now if I turn on captions as I'm presenting, you will see along the top of your screen what I'm saying. You'll notice that there's no punctuation, and you'll notice that it's one line at a time because of the size. If I were to select small, then I believe 2 lines of captions would be up there. There is no way of saving these captions. However, if you are doing a presentation like I am through Zoom, this obviously will appear later if you were to view this. But this is a nice option for those students that need to see the written word along with the spoken word. I know some of our teachers of the deaf of heart and hard of hearing use this so that they can see the word paired with the sign as it's being spoken. There are some errors, and you will notice that as I'm speaking. And so it is important that you're speaking clearly and at a relatively typical pace. But it's a great tool that you can use for those students that definitely need that. Okay, to turn that off, I go back to captions and I just select it. Okay. I'm going to escape out of, or I'm sorry, let me show you a couple other things while I'm in here in the present mode. I can simply use my forward arrow. Oh, my format got all weird. I can use my back arrow here to present. If you had a clicker, you could click, or you could simply use these buttons. Okay, your options here. You can open your speaker notes. However, if you're on Zoom, then the person on the other end, your audience, is also going to see your speaker notes. So just be aware of that. Okay, I'm going to exit out of this. And let me get to that point in the presentation where I was. And we just did cool tool number 4, the closed captioning. And that is how you do that. Go into present, choose captions, select the size and location, and turn it on. Okay, the other presenter view. So again, I do my drop down arrow. If I go to presenter view, right now it's showing that I am on slide 25. This is the previous slide. This is my next slide. And this is where I would see my speaker notes. Okay, so if you were presenting on a whiteboard or something like that, you would see that this is, I'm sorry, your audience would see this, but you would see your speaker notes over here. You can see how this isn't relevant in Zoom, but how it would be relevant when presenting from the classroom. In this case, I wanted to show you audience tools. So if I click on audience tools, I could start a question session with my audience. So if I go to start now, this appears up on the screen, and I'm just going to move this for a second. This is what my audience would see. Okay, and it says ask a question at slides.app.goo.l and then blah, 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 blah. If you were to go on your phone right now or open a new tab and type that in, you could ask a question and it would appear here for me. Okay, you can make the questions appear to the whole audience so everybody sees them up on the screen, or you can make it so just you see the questions on the screen. But this is a neat tool to use. I don't know, I'm just checking to see if anybody asked any. And let me turn this on to anyone. And if somebody goes to that and asks a question, it would appear here. So if somebody wants to do that, just so everybody can see it.
Hello?
Danielle,
I'm
can you
not
hear me?
seeing anybody do that.
Danielle, can you hear me?
So I'm going to try from my phone. So I'm going to go to slides. So if you were working with students, and slides.app.
Spicy. Want some? Going over. What's up? How you feel? Do you? That's good.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So these are some questions. Now, if you were to click present, this would be presented to the whole class. Right now, only I am seeing this on my end.
How's your wife doing?
Okay, but if I were to click present, everybody would see it.
Oh, they
Yes,
found it.
students would be able to follow the presentation
Oh,
and
good
ask
for her.
questions.
How long do you think it'll cut?
Okay, somebody needs to mute their microphone. I'm going to mute. Okay. Yes, you can post the link. I would probably just embed that link into the presentation itself if I knew I was going to use that ahead of time. Would they be able to follow the presentation and ask on their phones at the same time? That's a good question. Carly, I think you are on your phone right now. Are you able to keep the Zoom open and ask a question using this link at the same time? Maybe you can test that for us.
Danielle, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I'm on my phone for a different meeting. I'm on the,
Okay. All right, so it's the other way around. Okay,
Yeah.
if anybody else is on their phone with this Zoom and they want to try this link, feel free. Okay. All right, I'm going to get out of this. Okay, so right now I'm in presenter view. It shows me up here. I'm going to X out. Okay, and I'm going to exit my presentation and bring it back to my main page. Okay, I know I flew through that and there was a lot of material thrown at you. So I am able to watch the chat box now. I want to go through any questions that you have and make sure that I've answered them. If you want to share something that you learned or might use differently in slides, please share that. Let's see. Okay, can you sync? Okay, the link to this presentation, I will send it now. I'm going to put it in the chat box. This will be available on that CLIU PD site also. Okay, so just so you know. Okay, so you can use that link. When you are using the background feature to create a worksheet, does it need to be a picture format or it can be a PDF? It can be either. Okay, it can be a picture or a PDF. Good question. Act 48 hours, yeah, you're like, let's see. Act 48 hours, this is your link. I will copy and paste that into the chat box. I do want to share this really great link here. And this I got from, I forget what the source was on it, but it does show you. Come on, little bugger. Let me just open this real quick and I'll put this in here also. If I open this real quick. Yes, I will go back on how to add the YouTube link. Okay, these Google cheat sheets I just provided to you. So these are for docs, slides, and sheets. Just a quick overview. So in addition to maybe reviewing this video, you can look at these as well. Okay, so here's the one for Google Sheets, but docs, sheets, and slides are available. Okay. Kim, cloning pictures, yes, I just do copy and paste. Then if you want to copy and paste like 3 of them that you've already pasted, so now you're copying 3 and pasting 3, you can do that also. All right, let me show you the inserting a YouTube. Okay, so just think about the process of what you're doing. You want to put something in, so inserting. So if I go to insert video, I tap on that, it automatically brings me to YouTube. Okay, if you have a URL or if it's on your drive, you're just going to click on those instead. But for YouTube, if I want to do Bill Nye colors, enter, it's going to bring up those videos for me. And I just click on it, select, and it puts it into the slide. Okay, and then I can resize that. Using the corners to resize is the best. That way you're not skewing the picture. And then if I were to go into present mode, this is what my students see on their end, and they would just hit play to play that. Okay. All right, good question. How do I save that slide deck? You don't need to save it. It's automatically saved. Okay, so right now this one is called test 2 because I named it test 2. If I were to get out of here and maybe go, I'm going to close this and I'm going to open a new tab and go to my, my waffle here, go back into slides. I can either start a new presentation this way, but here's test 2. If I tap on that, it's going to bring me to where I left off. I don't need to save it. Okay, and I can see up here that it was edited 1 minute ago. Okay, the link for 48 or Act 48 is above. We've put it in the chat box. Please just scroll up. Any other questions? You can either put them in the chat or unmute yourself, whatever you're comfortable with. The cheat sheets, I put that link in the chat also. Okay, I will put each of those back in there because sometimes the chat gets a little long. I will show you how to do those images in just a second. Okay, so that's Act 48 hours. And whoops. This is the cheat sheets. And here are the Act 48 hours. Did that work? Come on. There we go. Okay. All right, for pictures, just real quick, let me delete this. Actually, I'll go back to this. So if I were to take my Bitmoji and do a control copy, a control C, and just for this demonstration, I'm going to add a new slide here, just so it's blank. And I can do a control V, okay, and here's my picture. And maybe I want my students to count this. I'm going to resize it to the size I want. I'm going to do a control copy, another control V, another control V. Okay, so you can do copy control C and then copy control V. Okay, does that answer your question? How to copy or how to do pictures?
No, I was actually wondering if we could do like multiple, like a stack of them and like have it an infinite amount, like if we're doing counters, like if you give the student like 32, can they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and actually count them out like that, or coins or whatever?
Okay, yes, let's
Like I know
see.
when you use like Smartboard, you can do like an infinite amount.
Yeah, I'm trying to find, you know, I'm going to stop this Zoom or the recording just since we're done at this point, and then I will continue helping. Stop recording.